live from the Fallout shelter. It's me, Caleb, and I just want to do a quick rant about D&D stuff. Most notably, the Adventure Zone. The Adventure Zone just is a podcast. It's a comedy podcast about D&D that's very good. They just did the Adventure Zone, where they kind of talk a little bit more behind the scenes about the Adventure Zone. And it's very interesting. The Adventure Zone is run by three brothers, the McElroy brothers. And they're all very, very funny. And more importantly, they have this bond as players. And they have a bond as brothers, but even most brothers aren't really that great at like improving and goofing around with each other and whatnot. So, what does this have to do with you? Well, Griffin McElroy actually said in the thing, killing off player characters wasn't good storytelling. Yeah, I agree in his case. Now, in your case, the person listening to this, you probably are not going to be in a D&D group that has the level of cohesiveness that the McElroy brothers have. It's probably just not going to happen. And that's not a bad thing. But what you might want to consider is that instead of that, bond, you'll have to have something else to tie your group together. And that can be stakes. Stakes that your character, that you put a lot of time in, might die off if you guys don't work together as a team, if you don't overcome the obstacles, you set up for yourself or the GM sets up for you. So that's a thing. And I think also the whole aspect of perceived consequences, it has something to do with stakes and it has something to do with collaborative storytelling. In the example of the Adventure Zone, as soon as Griffin said, hey, I don't think character death is good storytelling, then a short while later, one of the player characters, Travis, said, hey, wait a second. My character that I came up with and I'm playing, the choices I'm making is he's very brash, he runs into danger, and he might get himself killed. And that's kind of part of his character. So by Griffin saying player characters can't die, that's kind of invalidating the collaborative storytelling Justin was trying to do by having a character that potentially could die in the game. And, as a early GM, I kind of fell into this too, where I had this big battle planned, and then one of my characters threw a huge monkey wrench into it, where they pretty much did something that would end the battle quickly, but would also kill off their character. And you really have to respect choices like that, because those are actually the choices that make the best story in the long run. I had a stupid combat planned, but I could have just recycled that for later. And the story that came out of this character actually sacrificing himself and, sacrificing his character and whatnot to end the battle early was actually a much better story than anything I could have come up with on my own. So again, when it comes to stakes, perceived consequences, and collaborative storytelling, it's all kind of the same thing. In addition to, I like to do a grid system where basically the world that I run is basically just a set kind of grid, sort of bare bones, and the story sort of fills in depending what the player characters do. Now, if you want to do a story where it's a little bit more set and there's a certain story you want to tell, then it's fine to keep your player characters alive, because sometimes player characters dying just screws up the story as a whole, and then it kind of throws a monkey wrench into your plans. So that's fine. You can keep your characters alive. There's plenty of ways to do that. However, don't let your characters know that you're doing that. Just plain out saying my player characters won't die. It's just, then what's the point? What's the point of the amazing D&D combat system, which has that lethality in there, which really makes life much more precious in D&D. Winning battles means something when there's always the potential that your character could just lose, and that just that falls into stakes and everything like that. But I think the thing is, storytelling is important, but having the game rules and the game system there set to allow your party to kind of come together around a common situation that you're in, that's also very important as well. And I don't know if there's anything else I really want to say about the issue. You know, again, perceived consequences are still consequences. You know, you should never invalidate your players' decisions, even if they're bad decisions. I think that D&D and RPGs in general are unique because it allows the characters to truly make their own choices in matters, and even if those choices are wrong, it's still their choices. So it's, you know, as a GM, trust in human nature. Games are just better when people think that there's stakes involved. Storytelling is more rewarding, and if it's collaborative, and to be collaborative, you sometimes have to follow the rules. All right, so this was just me ranting. I'm tired. It's my birthday. It's like 3 in the morning. I wanted to test out this new setup, so I might ramble on more about something. If anybody has any specific questions for me, please comment below. And as always, have a nice evening.